Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Blues versus the Hurricanes. And I heard at the end of this game, one of the commentators going, "It's not easy to come to Eden Park and win." Really? Because so far the Blues have lost every single game at home. You're not going to hear that kind of tosh on this show, I can tell you. Anyway, hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. And joining me this evening, and I'm sure he won't give you that kind of tosh either, is Shane. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks, Paul. How are you? It's a bit chilly in northern New South Wales tonight.
A bit chilly? What you mean? It's actually below like 30 for you guys. Eh? Jeez. Here I am in the thermals. Normally I have a blue thermals to go under my blue jersey, but we had the All Black show last night. Oh well, the last two nights we had All Black shows, so I got the smelly black long sleeve thermal instead to keep me warm. And I promise everyone who's going to be anywhere near me tomorrow, I will change thermals. Okay, I promise. Okay. Anyway, so it's only on in the evenings, not during the daytime. It's not hot, cold enough. Anyway, enough of my clothing attire. But talking of weather, the rain held off because I tell you, it's been wet in New Zealand today, and it was good to see a dry game. Yeah,
it certainly was a typical dry game for attacking rugby, Paul. It was certainly a game that it meant that you had to take advantage of what you had, and the Hurricanes did tonight.
They did eventually. It took them some time to break down this blue side. This blue side, over the last few weeks, and there's been talk about, their defence wasn't so good initially in the season, and perhaps it wasn't. And we've had problems with their initial physicality. I mean, we joked earlier in the season that my coaching tip for Tony Manga, and I'm pretty sure he has taken on my coaching tip, was to play Let's Get Physical in the change rooms before the game. And they did. They came out really physical, and defensively in that first half were absolutely superb, really.
They were, particularly the sustained pressure they had from about the 30th minute to half time. And there was about a string of 6 penalties in a row. From about, I think, the 29-minute mark to about the 38-minute mark. And the Blues managed to hold on, sustained pressure into the 22. So it goes to show you that some things have been working on the training paddock.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kicked the start off, kicked deep into the Canes 22 because the Blues started the game, got that pressure on. The Canes struggled to exit. But as soon as they did, the Blues lost their line out. Surprise, surprise. And then they gave a penalty, and suddenly the Hurricanes were marching downfield. It's just one of those things where you're kind of like, defensively in open play, the Blues were great, but their set piece tonight was an absolute shocker.
Oh, it was. And that DrivingMaul, no pun intended, of course, Paul, for the Hurricanes' first try, was something I don't mind watching. It was just champagne rugby. The Hurricanes knew when they had that penalty, they were not going to the posts for 3. They wanted to do it in 7s. And that was an excellent start to the game for them.
No, it was. And so after 6 minutes, they got the line-out maul try. But looking at the stats, the Blues at that point had to make 9 tackles, and they made every single one. They had 100% tackle rate, but they also had given up 2 penalties. So whilst their defence were held up, their discipline didn't, and that was that was a big problem. And the discipline wasn't necessarily around all just being offsides. I mean, we've had I've gone blank. Akiriwani jumping across the line. We had holding ons. We had offsides. We had taking out the scrum half at the maul. We had a high tackle. If you were to run through, if we were playing bingo penalties, I think the Blues pretty much had a full house tonight.
They did, and as I always believe, Paul, with rugby, ill discipline takes all kinds. It certainly doesn't take just the odd, the hands in the ruck or not rolling away. And you're right. There was a lot of a variety of different penalties and reasons the referee gave tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of lapse play, and it's not going to be a quick one to fix on the on the training paddock, because it is everything that's going wrong pretty much from a discipline point of view. From a defence point of view, as we said, absolutely top. They're much better this time. Jack says in the chat the Blues should have got a yellow card, and having given up 9 penalties to only 4 to the Hurricanes, there was a lot of talk about a yellow card coming in at half time. But one of the more interesting things about this game, and one of the things that perhaps that I can't remember seeing for a very long time, is we actually changed referees at half time, and that might have saved the Blues in the fact that the second referee coming on didn't have the... Sure, he could see, he could know, but he didn't have the feel for how many cards the Blues were giving up. Not cards, how many penalties the Blues were giving up, sorry.
Well, it's interesting. Why was there actually a change of referee? That was never really explained.
So apparently Jacko Piper was feeling not very well before the game. He started the game, but at half time decided that he wasn't feeling well enough to continue. And unfortunately, yes, not feeling well was the problem. But I did like one of the things that Jacko Piper did early doors. He gave a penalty early doors because one of the Hurricanes, I think it was Proctor, was stopping a quick line-up being taken. And Piper said, right, I'm drawing a line in the sand here at this. I think he actually said, I'm drawing a line in the sand, a stake in the ground. And you're like, okay, how many different, I've gone blank, different, not similes, but anyway, thingamajigs.
Euphemisms.
There we go. See, I've got an intelligent man on the show. That's why he's here. Euphemisms was he going to use? But basically he was saying, look, no messing around. Let's play rugby, and I'm not going to allow it. And I loved that from him. I thought I was very happy with how Jacko Piper went during this game in that first half. Had no problems with his refereeing at all. Personally.
Well, that was a similar reference used by Marius van Westhuizen in the Rebels and Reds game last year, where Quade Cooper refused to let go of the ball when it was a Rebels line-out. And I think his words were similar to, I know this is an Aussie derby and everybody's excited because it's an Aussie derby and you want to get into it, but we've got to draw a line in the sand. And I admire Jacko Piper. He said, that's it, boys. You've had your fun. Now let's get on with playing some rugby.
Well, no, to be fair to me, he didn't let them have any fun at all, which is good. We want to see, no playing off the ball. An offside penalty early, but the Blues went for the line out. Defences were on top, and eventually, and that's what the Blues line out wasn't working. Their maul wasn't working. But they managed to still smuggle the ball out, and luckily got another penalty, which they kicked for 3. Do you think that was the right option, or should they be kept going for the corner in the end?
Well, I think they should have followed the Hurricanes' example, to be honest, and had a crack. I mean, one thing, I'm not saying the Blues aren't a good New Zealand side. They've certainly got a lot of potential. But you see it with the Crusaders and the Hurricanes and the Highlanders and Middle Blank Chiefs. They will do the things that need to get the higher points on the board and the points quickly. And that's why I really enjoyed what the Hurricanes did when they scored their first try. I think the Blues should have had a crack at the 7 instead of the 3.
Well, they went for the 3, and I normally like picking up 3s, but I never felt they would keep pace with the Highlanders with 3s, unfortunately. So I think perhaps I agree that they needed to have some more faith in their set piece, which in retrospect the set piece didn't deserve, but still, I think they should have gone with that. I think oh dear me, I'm getting caught down. Brett in the chat has already gone. Apparently, I say early doors all the time. So, but clearly, so I'm going to avoid that right now, even though I've said it.
Ron Atkinson line.
And one of the tactics that we saw we saw a couple of times was that grubber through for Rieko Ioane. We saw Sonny Bill Williams do it. We saw Duffy do it. I think that was clearly a coaching point that, hey, we want to try and turn Ben Lamb with little grubs on the floor and see if he can keep up with Rieko. Now, both times those grubbers went out, so they didn't get the full advantage of them. But it was interesting to see that kind of to see that tactic being used. Clearly, they thought that they could get behind Ben Lamb there. Ben Lamb is known by the Blues. He used to be up at the Blues, so the coaches should know him. But it didn't quite come off though, did it? In the end,
no, it didn't. I would have liked to have seen them just go out wide to Rico. I think I've got to say that Rico looked a bit more comfortable in 14 than he had playing at inside centre, covering for Sonny's injury tonight. But yeah, if you've got a big winger like Rico Ioane and he's lining up against Ben Lamb, who's in form, give Rico the ball and see what you can do, and have faith in that structure.
And we say it didn't work, but they did get territory, and from that we got a lovely ball that went out from a maul. Sonny Bill Williams cut back in on the inside of Perifetter's shoulder, got past a couple of players, offloaded to Ledger, and over he went for the first Blues try to make it 8-7. Unfortunately, Perifetter's radar wasn't on tonight, and his kicking wasn't up to scratch, so he missed that one. But a lovely little try there.
The offload for me. I'm a backs person, Paul, as I think I've said before, and I don't mind that one bit. Sonny Bill Williams had the confidence to put the offload out, and his man was ready and charging onto it for the try. Good set piece by the Blues there.
It is. I think Ledger had a pretty decent game running on people's shoulders tonight. That wasn't the only one.
He was all right.
The only one he pulled off. I thought. But so I think he's growing into the role of playing Super Rugby. He's still young, and we'll see how he gets on. But so that was nice to see him improving on that one. And we saw Sonny Bill Williams run that line again off Perifetter. That's clearly one of their main set moves. And I'm not sure I actually saw Perifetter ever in the 22 pass out to Sonny Bill Williams. I think he always cut back inside. You do it once, do it once against me, well done on you. Do it once and catch me out, bad on me. And the Hurricanes, it was not going to be bad on me. They once they'd seen it once, they adapted to it, and they weren't going to allow it to come off another time. So I think the Blues looked a bit too predictable tonight. I mean, as we say, we saw them out on the right wing. If they had Rico outside them, they tried to turn with a grubber kick. If Perifetta was in the 22 around the middle of the pitch, Sonny Bill Williams cut back on his inside shoulder. You could even me as a kind of casual fan rather than anyone actually even educated in rugby could spot it. Then I think your players on the pitch are going to spot that, and they were just too formulaic. So it would work one time, but not twice by the Blues.
No, you could see that the Hurricanes made sure they shut down every time Sonny went for the offload after that. I think he was only successful one more time getting the arms free after that try. So kudos to the Hurricanes' defence. They learnt very quickly.
Yeah, and an interesting comment in the chat. I hope the Blues can develop Caleb Clark. Otherwise, he should look elsewhere. Hey, look, it's a very young guy. It's only about his second game in here. Yes, he's done very well at sevens, but let's not try and expect him to do just because Rico came from sevens and blew the world away last year. Not every player is going to come from sevens to do that. Caleb Clark just needs time. Let's not rush him or put any extra pressure on him to come through.
You'll be right.
He had an okay game, but with this Blue side, you're not going to get much space and things, so he's going to learn how to play in difficult ways. Now, whilst we talked about the Blues defence, or I have talked about the Blues defence being good, they fell asleep on the half-hour mark, didn't they? Tap and go, and Evans, they turned their back on him. Evans went, I love to see people's backs when I'm only 5 metres out. Tap, go, bash over, you silly boys. And Evans had a decent game tonight as well.
Oh, he was good. I think he had a line-out steal, which resulted in another Hurricanes try later in the game too. That's a Dane Coles move, and I remember he did that in a test match that the Wallabies lost to the All Blacks 4 years ago in Brisbane. So it's a typical Hurricanes move. and I could see it happening. The Blues had their backs turned, and Evans said, "All right, time to get into it." I could see the try line from here, and he slid over underneath some pretty lacklustre Blues defence and got the 5.
He did, and we talk about a lot about these two back lines. I mean, let's be honest, we were talking about like a TJ, Perinara, Barrett, Laumapi, Proctor, Sevilla, Ben Lamb, Milner Scudder, with Geordie Barrett coming off the bench. And on the other side, we have Sonny Will Williams, Pulu, Riku Iwani, Perifeta played well today. Caleb Clark, Duffy's also been in the All Blacks mix. And we're talking about these fantastic back lines. But this game wasn't about the back lines. This game was about the forwards. And the Hurricanes forwards basically winning this one up front. They
set the platform.
They set the platform. In that, we're going to talk. So that last 10 minutes before half time, the Blues did very well to hold them out, but the backs didn't get an opportunity there. The Hurricanes backs basically just saw the Hurricanes forwards bashing away for about 10 minutes, and you've got all these wonderful backs. You're thinking, but when are they going to use them? It's kind of like, nope, this is our game. We're going to win it. You guys just. There's been too much talk. Well, one of the things I said in the commentary was there's been so much talk in the press. Perhaps the forwards wanted to make a statement around that. I don't think it was that, but there was definitely an element of this is a good time for us now to tire out this Blues side so that we can take advantage later on, and which is what they ended up doing.
Yeah, and look, I love penalty tries, so I was a bit disappointed not to see one in that 10-minute period. Yeah, there's a belief from this Wallabies person anyway that New Zealand sides about a month or two out start preparing for who they've got at the Test series, and I saw that Hurricane side preparing their internationals for the French, and they were doing that with their forwards. So I know that's a big call, Paul, but I could see that planning and that preparation from some of the Hurricanes forwards. They were really looking forward to that 10-minute period, you could tell, before half time.
Yeah, we say that, but the one of the fun thing is that Boyd has said that that he never talks to Hansen, so that was interesting. But anyway, so it finished at 8:14. Great defensive line stand by the Blues. I don't think this is I don't think this has been a deliberate ploy for the French tests, but I do love a good conspiracy theory.
Not a conspiracy theory, just a thought that's been put out there.
Some halftime stats. Tackling, the Blues made 40 out of 46 tackles, 86%, which is fantastic. The Hurricanes were 27 for 35 at 77. Lineouts, the Blues, much whilst we talk about the lineouts, they'd actually won 4 out of 4 at that point. But the Hurricanes had an amazing 12 lineouts, 3 times as many. And that was coming back because of the penalties and exit strategies. The Hurricanes gave up 4 penalties, which, funny enough, matches those 4 lineouts, but they did, at least one of those penalties was kicks at sticks. So it's not quite that. But 9 penalties for 12 lineouts shows that, that not only were they picking up lineouts from that, but also the Hurricanes' exit strategy was much more to keep it in hand and keep it on the pitch than the Blues were. So, the Blues were letting the Hurricanes have a lot of lineouts, and the Hurricanes lineout worked absolutely superbly all night. At half-time, the rare change of refs, as we talked about, due to illness, and we think, as I say, that probably favoured the Blues because there was none of that carried baggage of the first half. But it was fun to hear the referee in the second half going, just because I'm a new ref doesn't mean we're starting again at scrum time. Boys, you've been warned already. Keep on, behave yourselves. I think both refs had a decent night tonight. And it's not often we can say that because quite often there's not 2 refs.
Yeah. Look, I thought Jaco Piper set that standard for the young fellow that came on in the second half. And I think he did all right too. And he laid down the law when he had to. And I think he said to TJ Perinara, it was picked up in the commentary, don't worry, mate, I'm watching you as well.
I missed that one, but oh dear, like that. basically the defences were on top initially. A couple of turnovers. We had a lot of play in that kind of between the two 22s in that early second half. I say my notes here are basically that some Ledger again on the shoulder, which was good. We had a sort of high tackle and stuff, and the Blues again went for lineouts but couldn't control it. And this is when the Blues started to lose their lineouts in that second half, because I say they were 4 from 4 in the first half. They were only 1 from 4 in that second half, and that is abysmal at this level. Whereas the Hurricanes were 20 from 20 all game, which after last week's efforts is pretty good going, because Riccatelli was not on target last week.
No, Riccatelli had a really good game today. I think probably even for the minds of Steve Hansen coming up too. The set pieces are critical of importance, particularly to New Zealand sides, and particularly lineouts and your scrums. And the lineouts, the Hurricanes were brilliant. They got the job done.
They did, and I was going to do a couple of shout-outs. So on Wednesday night, we did the DrivingMaul, the All Blacks edition, episode 1. So go back and have a listen to that about All Blacks and that sort of thing. And also coming out probably today or tomorrow on Cornflakes Cribs channel, you'll have Cornflakes All Blacks edition episode 2, because it's opposite. Because we had episode 1 under the DrivingMaul, and you'll have Steve, myself, and gone blank Ashwin. God, dear me, selecting our All Black squad. And Riccatelli is one of those that gets mentioned and gets dropped actually because of his inaccurate line-out throws. So maybe we'll have to revise that now after tonight's thing. I think he plays himself back in towards that sort of things. But the Blues actually got back into the lead with after 11 phases of bashing over the line, bashing at the line, they got over. Good ball retention, but also perhaps a lack of penetration as well.
Yeah, it was. I don't know how to describe it, because words can't describe pictures that you're watching on television, unlike artwork. but it was good old-fashioned stuff by the Blues, and they did get the points in the end. But it took a lot of yakka, a lot of hard work to get it.
And I think a lot of that is going to tell towards the end. I mean, we had Perifetta make a lovely take on the ground, running catch. He didn't get up in the air, which was interesting that he decided to take it on the ground and made a break. And Artie Surveyor was just snagged him. Otherwise, he was gone, and that could have been a good story for the Blues. But he got snagged, and that was then after a series of turnovers, including an interesting Sonny Bill Williams kicking from his own in goal area, which was a bit surprising. Very rare to see him kicking. Milner Scudder gets put on his own out wide, and he uses his little Scudder step. Not as maybe flamboyant as we've seen from him before, but goes around Perinara, and Rico can't get back in time. Puts the Hurricanes back in the lead, and they never looked back from there, did they? Really?
Despite the late defensive pressure in the try he scored, he put it down very cleanly. And I know there was a bit of a worry there when he got up limping, but how good is it to see him, after all the injury problems that he's had, play some big rugby and back in the starting side? It was a great try, good step, and a good run to the line.
Good step, good run, and as soon as they saw him slightly limping, they pulled him straight away. There was
absolutely.
There's a player that they're worried about, and yes, as soon as any sign of any kind of injury, off you come, mate. Geordie Barrett's coming on.
And 50, I think it was 55 minutes, was it? 55 minutes game time's good for someone that's coming back from those sort of injuries.
Yep, absolutely. And so yeah, but even so, I still think it was the sign of him limping was kind of like that quick. Get the physio massaging that leg straight away. We don't want anything to be any secondary injuries or anything to be more permanent than that. Personally, we then had probably the most farcical moment of the game. Perenara tries to, not Perenara, rewind. Perifetta tries to clear the ball, charged down by Bowden Barrett. Caleb Clark and Kano clearly not talking to each other, take each other out. Keystone Cops style as they both go for the ball, and TJ gets released and very nearly goes in the corner. Lucky for the Blues there to keep the Hurricanes out.
Yeah, there was comedy of errors there. I think the Hurricanes player came back on side and had a little kick at the ball from memory to get it to the back line, and I think it was a foot in touch for Perenara, wasn't it?
A foot in touch saves them in the end, but yep. Then on 60 minutes, the Blues on their own 5 metre line, their line out not working. Clearly it got into their heads because they overcomplicated it. We had like a 5-man line out that had about 20 different pre-throw moves to try and throw off the opposition, throw it in. Evans, this is the Evans still, comes down, takes it out the air with one hand, collects the ball as he's coming down, scrambles forward for 4 metres, nearly gets to the line. Impressive piece of work. But the Blues, clearly lacking confidence in their line out, were just trying to overcomplicate things. 3 or 4 phases later, over they go, and then it was at 15-28, I scribbled down game over. Up until then, the Blues had kind of been in it, but that was game over at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And when TJ Perenara came on just probably 5 or 10 minutes earlier, the pace of the game, the gears started to shift like a 4-wheel drive. But you could see the Hurricanes building up the pace, and you knew some tries were going to come. And it was game over when the Hurricanes scored and got it out to 13.
Yeah, and then basically we had 2 more tries after that, but they, which basically sealed the try bonus point for the Hurricanes, but did little more than that. I mean, Ruru came on for Pulu, took out a very, very lazy penalty, took out TJ Perenara behind the ruck. Yes, he touched the ball, but hadn't lifted it, and so whilst I think having moved it is enough nowadays rather than lifted it. Either way, that was the referee's interpretation. And then some great hands after a Laumapi crossfield kick. I mean, you kind of think, okay, Bowden Barrett's out on the wing, we're safe. They're not going to crossfield kick. Where did that one come from?
I think out of the Bowden Barrett playbook, ironically enough, or the Geordie Barrett playbook. They do that once a game, but Laumapi was huge, wasn't he?
He was, but I'd say Laumapi, a bit like Sonny Williams, were like, wow, he's kicked the ball. And you'd expect, Geordie Barrett, Bowden Barrett, both wide on the right wing, the players on the left-hand side, you think, right, there's no one there actually who's going to kick this ball, because they just don't. And then Laumapi goes and does that. Amazing bit of play from him, showing his versatility, growing in perhaps a similar way that we saw someone like Nonu do over his time. And some wonderful hands out there for the try. I can't remember who scored it, but that sealed the try bonus point for the sides, and well deserved by the Hurricanes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Hurricanes just have a way, don't they? They have a way to finish off games, and they got the experience to their players to do that, and it showed to me what confidence they had. And you mentioned Laumapi not kicking the ball. You're right. He's more of a line running inside centre, a bit like Nonu or the chap at the Chiefs as well. I forget his name. That's why I'm an Aussie. Forget names. but the Charlie Nato, I think it is, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, sorry, Charlie Nato.
Yes.
He used to be until he got all the concussions, and now he's less of a line-running inside centre. But yes.
It just shows the skills that they're taught, and they've obviously retained those skills season after season to do those sort of things, and it was a special way to finish the game.
Yeah, it was, and that just run through some of the stats that basically that shows where this was won and lost. The Blues 85% tackling. That's a decent level of tackling. It was higher than that sometimes. Hurricanes at 83%, not so, still decent. But lineouts won 20 for 20 by the Hurricanes, only 5 from 8 from the Blues, and then penalties conceded 14 by the Blues, 6 by the Hurricanes. That's a sign of a championship side that keeps those penalties down and has a rock solid set piece. Both sides lost one scrum each, but yes. And clean breaks, 6 each, 6 all. Defenders beating pretty similar. Blues had more offloads than the Hurricanes, but at the end of the day, giving up that many penalties just gives up the territory. And as we said, this was actually a forwards one game in that set piece, and yeah, that's where they won it. Those penalties also gave the Hurricanes 60% possession as well as the territory, and yeah, that's congratulations to them. I was just saying, we were happy with the referee. This wasn't the referee making bad decisions against the Blues. This was just ill discipline by the Blues.
Very much ill discipline, Paul. I was probably shouting out the television screen that there was a penalty here or a penalty there, as we Australians do, particularly in our derbies, which is tomorrow night. Just a plug. But the Blues have, and I've said it before, and so many people have said it before, they've got all the potential equal to the other Super Rugby franchises in New Zealand. And I don't think it's the coach's fault at all. I think Tana's tried his best. It's when they get out there and they're not quite sticking to the structures, and that's where you see a lot of the ill discipline that comes out of the Blues side. I really wish they'd cut some of that out, work harder on that, and have a few wins, because I think they're 0-16 at the moment from derbies. So they're carting up a record similar to our record against New Zealand opponents. But that's not meant in a rough way, because I really do enjoy watching the Blues play good rugby, and they can play good rugby, and they did in some of the time tonight. But gee, I really wish they could have had a better, just a few things they got to fix.
There is, and we should probably talk about some of the players. And one of the ones that stood out for me, Tumaga Allen was all over the place, especially in that first half. Just quickly checking your stats: 12 tackles, none missed. Here's another player who's putting his hands up for All Black selection in the front row as well. I thought he had a great game. Any names that any players you kind of spotted that you thought had good games?
I thought I've got to give a plug to Artie Sevilla. I thought he was good, as well as the entire Hurricanes backline. I've got to say that, being a backs person. And Gareth Evans was huge work rate.
Yeah, I think,
and I thought Sonny Bill was probably close to the Blues' best tonight.
Yeah, Shields, Sevilla, Evans, I think all three of them had good games in that back the loose forwards division. And we mentioned Riccatelli and Tuamanga Allen. So this was a game won by the forwards, and hence that's why we're talking about those kind of players. On the other side, Akira Iwani was kept pretty quiet. Kano had a solid game. Turamai, the number 7, made 15 tackles, missed 5. You could see he was always trying and making effort, but yeah, there were times when you looked at it and thought, yeah, whilst he's trying, I'm not sure he's actually being effective the whole time. But at least he had the work rate and the effort there. You mentioned Williams. I thought Perifetta had one of his better games at number 10 as well for me tonight. It didn't look as it wasn't. Maybe he won't put under the pressure he has been in some of the other games. Maybe the forward's going to be a better platform. But I thought he looked more comfortable in that role. Maybe knowing that Gatland's disappearing at the end of the season, that he's most likely to get more game time before then, has helped his confidence. But yeah, I thought he looked more comfortable as well.
Yeah, I note that Ehio West probably, it would have been good if they retained Ehio West at the Blues.
No,
because I think
as a Blues fan and having sat in the West Stand having watched him play, we were more than happy to see him go. Sorry, but it just too flaky, too hot and cold. Some weekends he had his kicking boots on. Other weekends he wouldn't even know which way to kick the ball. It was he has pace, but no, it is not a. For me, he's not a Super Rugby level 10. We are, there's a common feeling amongst us in the West Stand was we were happy to see him. Good luck to him and wish him all the best. Nothing sort of anti him, but yeah, he's just not. He's not a starting 10 at Super Rugby level, I'm afraid.
Why don't they try Gatland more often? And why is Gatland leaving?
Oh, Gatland's signed for the Highlanders, so he knows there's clearly an opening there with Sopwanga going and a very young Smith, and another Smith is coming through there at fly half. So he's clearly seen that there's a good opportunity that he'll get a starting spot there. Whereas at the Blues, you've got a Terry Black coming back and Perifetta, so you've got to say that it's a much harder task at the Blues. So why not go where you're going to get game time, basically?
Absolutely.
I think it's a shame that it looks like the Blues have taken it badly and have basically said, well, if you're going to leave us at the end of the season, we're not going to play you again. I think for the good of the player, the good of New Zealand rugby, I don't see why they're doing that, to be honest. Yeah. But that appears to be what they're doing. I don't agree with that at all.
I'm not a fan of that either, Paul, and I'd hate to wait for him to... I'd hate to see him have to wait till the Mitre 10 Cup to have a run, because I think Bryn Gatland's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Much more of a game manager than Perifetta, where Perifetta's more of a game breaker. And that's steady, but even so, yeah, both promising young fly halves. I think I've covered everything I was going to say. Any last sort of comments or thoughts?
No, go the Reds tomorrow.
Go the Reds tomorrow. I'm also back tomorrow, so I'm planning on covering the the Utah Warriors hosting the Austin Elite. So you can catch post-game analysis of that one. I've got Tony Ridnell, and I may have Alex Corbusiero on that one. He hasn't confirmed yes or no yet, so maybe I will have a British and Irish Lion on the show. And then later in the evening, I will be doing the post-match analysis of the Hurricanes Lions as well. Currently, I'm on my own, but hey, who knows who might pop in on that one. So, Shane, let people know where they can get in touch with you to talk about rugby between games.
At Schoolmate, SCOOLM8 on Twitter. Let's talk rugby.
Cool. And of course, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. The Twitter handle's just there. So you know how to get hold of me. Always up for good rugby chat down below as well. And please, the one thing, our big push at the moment is, wait for it, it's about subscribers. So please, subscribe. We've been told that social media calls to action should be clear. And I hope that's as clear as can be. Subscribe to the channel or to the email list in the pinned comment down below. Thank you for joining us and enjoy whatever rugby you are watching.